Surveys show that very large numbers of people believe conspiracy theories. Reference 54. Regards recent terrorist attacks, for example, according to a variety of opinion polls, a third of all Americans consider it very likely or somewhat likely that government officials either allowed or actually carried out the attacks of 9/11. Reference 55. Reference 56. In the Muslim world, an even greater proportion, as high as 80%, believe America and or Israeli governments carried out the attacks. Reference 57. In the UK, nearly a quarter of British Muslims surveyed in 2006 in a 2006 survey did not believe the four men identified as the perpetrators of the 7/7 attacks were responsible. Reference 58. The belief is so widespread that astonishingly, Al-Qaeda's second in command, Ayman al-Zawahiri, criticised Iran for propagating the 9/11 conspiracy, explaining that Iran was itself to cover up its involvement with America. Reference 59. Despite its force as a social phenomenon, there has been little serious study of conspiracy theories, although this is beginning to change. Reference 60. Existing research suggests a number of quite different reasons why people believe conspiracy theories. Conspiracy theories exploit a lack of trust in the official procedures of knowledge, producers of knowledge. In a complex, highly specialised world, most of us rely on experts for our answers. Without familiarity with the expert specialism, however, we have no personal way of verifying their claims. We must trust in their competence and integrity, and that of the wider system in which they operate. John Hardwig calls this the novice expert problem. Reference 61. Conspiracy theories, by painting experts as in some way complicit, tell people that you don't need to rely on expert testimony or technical specialists, but your own eyes and reason. This then is a form of empowerment. As an attack on the establishment, on the status quo, conspiracy theories ideologically address real structural inequalities. Reference 62. The consumers of conspiracy theories are also the producers. They spread virally throughout actual and virtual social networks via peer-to-peer word of mouth and homemade videos premised on the rejection of mainstream producers of knowledge. Reference 63. There is something innately human about them. As Brian Keeley has argued, conspiracy theories are alluring because they offer a grand, complete, unified explanation that can account for everything as human intention. The alternative, an absurd, unpredictable world, is far too frightening. Reference 64. Indeed, by supposing current events are under control of nefarious agents, conspiracy theories entail that such events are capable of being controlled. Reference 65. They are attractive to believers seeking the refuge of humanist certainties in a post-humanist age. Reference 66. Recent research by Cass Sunstein has identified that they are, at core, a group phenomenon. He argues that information cascades and group polarization make people more susceptible to them. Simply put, this means that people tend to agree with whatever they think the rest of the group thinks. This is in order to protect and to improve their reputation, or through the force of corroboration of one point of view. This thesis, clearly inspired by Solomon Asch's famous conformity experiments. Reference 67. Solomon Asch is spelled S-O-L-O-M-N, S-O-L-O-M-O-N, and Asch is A-S-C-H. This new interest in conspiracy theories is welcome. However, the majority of this work is directed at why people believe conspiracy theories. The literature is almost entirely silent on the implications of this belief. We believe that there are potentially significant implications for social and political action. However, in this paper we focus on one specific subcategory, which is the role conspiracy theories play in extremist propaganda, ideology, and action. That's the end of that paragraph. Now it's going on to page 21. Paragraph and section. Conspiracies as a radicalizing multiplier. This paper aims to understand the role of conspiracy theories play in extremist groups, particularly those that turn violent. Extremism is a relative term, meaning someone or some group that expresses significant dissent from prevailing norms. It is not necessarily a bad thing. We have limited the focus to extremist groups where violence is a defining part of their ideology, where members have conducted violent acts against individuals or the state, those currently classified as terrorist organisations or purporting problematic social views, such as racial supremacists. In order to examine the role of conspiracy theories in these groups, we conduct a study of over 50 extremist groups, violent and non-violent, looking at their literature, websites, announcements and propaganda in order to ascertain the prevalence of conspiracy theories. Where possible, we used primary sources, and where that was not possible, we reviewed secondary literature about the group in question. The results are surprising. Members of a large number of very different extremist groups frequently, collectively and prominently hold conspiracy narratives, even if the theories do not constitute its official ideology. The most commonly held conspiracy theory was variants on Zog, which is Zionist occupational government. The belief that Jews secretly control major world governments. It is prominent in almost all openly neo-Nazi or white supremacist groups, including the Order, Aryan Nations, Imperial Clans of America, Combat 18, blah 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 blah, the British People's Party. Islamist groups share some of this ideology. Al-Qaeda's ideology is founded in its opposition to a perceived Zionist Anglo-Saxon Protestant anti-Muslim coalition, while excerpts of the forged Protocols of the Elders of Zion, Protocols of the Learned Elders of Zion, he meant to say, but he's fucked that up as he fucks everything up. But anyway, that's just a technical point, so I don't apologise for correcting that. Are included in Hamas's constitution. Quotation. They, the Jews, he's saying they mean the Jews, but then he's not reliable, were behind the French Revolution, the Communist Revolution. With the money, they were able to control imperialistic countries and instigate them to colonize. End of quote. The major cults we examined, the conspiracy was more personalized. Aum Shinrikyo, responsible for the 1995 Tokyo sarin gas attacks, and the People's Temple, who committed mass murder and suicide and murdered a US congressman, journalist in 1978. That's Jim Jones, isn't it? Both claimed that they were the personal victims of a widespread conspiracy aiming to destroy the group, which spurred them into preemptive defensive action. It is of note that the far left appear to be less wrapped up in conspiracy thinking and adhere to Marxist-inspired structuralist view of history, denies human intention as the primary force for historical change. Although their narratives share much of the anti-establishment sentiments of conspiracy theories, ideas that society develops structures of control to favour the powerful over the weak, the rich over the poor, they tend not to identify individuals or deliberate human intention as the wellspring of this oppression. The consequences, however, are often the same, pointing to forces beyond our control, articulating an enemy to hate, sharply dividing the group from the non-group, and sometimes legitimising violence. Nonetheless, there were some examples of a general Marxist critique of bourgeois-controlled society developing into something more conspiratorial. Prominent members of the National Anarchists were recorded as believing various aspects of Zionist occupational government and New World Order ideas. The last example of homegrown domestic terrorists in the UK other than the IRA was the radical situationist left-wing anarchists, the Angry Brigade. Their communiques burst with conspiracy which appear more than a Marxist critique of capitalist society, and he quotes Communique 7. They shove garbage from their media down our throats. They made us obscure sexual caricatures. All of us, men and women. They killed, napalmed, burned us into soap, mutilated us, raped us. It's gone on for centuries. Slowly we started understanding the big con, their capitalism. And he's put no, that's Jamie's bit, he's just put that bit in, their capitalism. Communique 9. We are slowly destroying the long tentacles of the oppressive state machine, ... bureaucracy and technology used against the people, ... to speed up our work, to slow down our minds and actions, to obliterate the truth. Reference 68. Conspiracy theories are not limited to violent groups and individuals. Non-violent extremist groups also share elements of the conspiratorial mindset. There are examples of Jewish extremist groups which believe leftist conspirators are trying to destroy the Jewish religion, while one group, Christian Identity, believes a dual seed line doctrine which states that Jews are conspiring with Satan to control world affairs. Others are more outlandish and bizarre. There are several 2012 prophecies, such as Rick Clay's belief that London 2012 Olympic logo spells the word Zion, that the map of the Olympic site reveals biblical significance, and Prince William will emerge during the Games to create the New World Order. I think he said he might, it wouldn't surprise me, he didn't say he would. Reference 69. Woden's-folk, a racial identity healing group, is another example of a group combining conspiracy theory with racial identity. Reference 70. There are other examples of ideas that revolve around accusations, half-truths and myths, but are not quite conspiracy theories. For example, MOVE, and that's the name of an organisation with all capitals, an anarcho-primitivist group involved in a police shooting in 1985 in the United States, spoke of government corruption and blamed all the world's ills on technology. By comparing the literature from a variety of extremist groups, some broad patterns emerge. The fact that all of these groups appear to share a common view of the world suggests a common dynamic. Interestingly, intelligence agencies have long been concerned about far-right, far-left and even Al-Qaeda-inspired groups, forming tactical, anti-establishment or anti-authority alliances. National anarchism, for example, is, according to its leaders, a political position that is beyond left-right, based on a dichotomy of centralised and decentralised power, and has brought together elements of both far-left anarchism and far-right racial supremacy. Reference 71. More disturbingly, in 2005, Kries, spelt K-R-I-E-S, the leader of the US white supremacist Aryan Nation, publicly invited Al-Qaeda to join him in an anti-Semitic anti-government alliance. Right, reference 72. Alliances between far-right secular extremists and religious extremists are, page 24. Certainly nothing new. It would be premature to suggest, reference 73, sorry. It would be premature to suggest that conspiracy theories can in any way predict the emergence of violence. Rather, we believe they are one of a number of factors that can lead to extremism and can turn extremism to violence. It is our contention that the presence of conspiracy theories is a radicalizing multiplier, which magnifies and exacerbates existing dynamics of extremism in three ways. They exaggerate demonologies, the other or the enemy that the group defines itself against. They delegitimize and condemn voices of dissent and moderation as being part of the conspiracy. They are a spur to violent action, a rhetorical device to justify the killing of innocents, often to awaken the people from their acquiescent slumber. We discuss each in turn. In-group, out-group dynamics and demonizing of the outsiders. The first multiplier relates to the way conspiracy theories demonize outsiders. Accusing outsiders of perpetrating nefarious conspiracies hardens a sense of identity and collective minority against outsiders. It inspires a tendency to overestimate external scrutiny of the group and attribute everyone else's behaviour to it. This is called sinister attribution error, or paranoid cognition, in which a small, close-knit group of co-believers is locked in an existential struggle with an out-group consisting of everyone else. Reference 74. It is possible that through this self-aggrandizing siege mentality, conspiracy theories also reinforce a process called group polarization. Groups acting in these conditions of self-imposed exile end up thinking and doing things that group members would never think or do on their own. Groupthink. Reference 75. Like-minded people, after discussing, confirming and validating each other's position, all end up taking a more extreme position than before they started to talk. This phenomenon has been found in hundreds of studies. Reference 76. If views are reinforced, people become more confident of holding a more extreme position. Reference 77, page 25. At its most extreme, this may increase the likelihood of violence against non-group members. Social philosophy research has noted how the creation of in-group, out-group distinctions and dehumanization potential targets is an important step to violence. This has been recorded between warring groups such as in 1994 Rwandan genocide, the People's Temple, reference 78. Certainly, Israeli-Arab relations cannot be helped by the widespread conspiracy theories recycled by some Arab media groups that Israelis are dumping aphrodisiac gum in Gaza to corrupt the young, reference 79, that the Boxing Day tsunami was the result of an Indian nuclear experiment with American with an Israeli help, reference 80, or indeed propagated by none else than the Grand Mufti Ali Gomer, that Israelis eat matzo with human blood, reference 80 and 81. That was the tsunami, was reference 80. Core to Al-Qaeda's ideology is an excommunication of almost the entire world and then a self-imposed exile from this excommunicated society, reference 82. Al-Qaeda consequently sees itself as a tiny colony of true believers who are surrounded on all sides by enemies and on whose shoulders rests the fate of humanity, reference 83. Similarly, in an interview, Charlie Sargent, leader of Combat 18, said that his aim was to withdraw as much as possible from society and create a national socialist state within Britain itself. One of Combat 18's publications stated that the inner cities are lost. We must realise this and take our only real option, converge as many of our people as we can in the homeland area and gradually take control of it and run it on a strict Aryan-only lines. Reference 84. In a similar way, other white supremacist movements often portray the establishment, usually the government, as actively seeking to destroy the white race. They present themselves as one of the only buttresses against the assault. The Ku Klux Klan, for example, believes that the United States media is bent upon its destruction and a one world order. Reference 85, and it means the United States government to destroy the United States is what he's trying to imply. Similar dynamics were at play with both Shinrikyo and the People's Temple. The impression of a conspiracy waged against the group or its interests serves as proof of the importance of the movement itself. For Aum, they view that the world's leading economic and military powers felt the need to gang up on Aum as further proof of its, page 26, importance. Members, particularly the leadership, began to transform how they saw themselves. Rather than being a small, marginalised, insignificant group, they began to see themselves as the key to world salvation, the heroic force for good and absolute truth against which the USA and its cohorts felt compelled to act. Reference 86.